Bluetooth connected.
We're back with another video on the E36. Basically just gonna get you guys caught up on stuff that I did film, but it was kind of like spotty filming because I was in the middle of trying to sort some stuff out in terms of moving this thing. So basically we will go over everything that I did. We're gonna go over everything that I did. I think it'd be better that way because it'll be more straightforward and easier to explain that way. So right off the rip, you'll notice that we are in a different space. We did move into a shop. Not really much to talk about, but it's a shop and it should be pretty permanent. So pretty decent sized shop. Can fit a couple cars in here at once. And that's really all I need, outside parking, so that's cool. But yeah, we'll dive right in. All right, we'll just start at the front of the car, work our way back. So you'll see we got all of the front suspension bolted up, brand new calipers, brand new pads, got the brake lines routed, we got stainless braided lines straight to the caliper, got our mount here. This will end up being a riv nut. This is obviously a self-tapper for the time being, but yeah. And then we still have to bed line that, but got all that stuff on. That's all brand new. Got our lower bolted on, our BC Racing coilovers on. Subframes in, obviously. Brand new BMW steering rack. And then got all the brake lines and everything plumbed, and the brakes are completely bled. Same thing over here on this corner. Got headlights are wired up and working. We got our bulkhead in, and most of that is wired up. We'll talk about that here in a second. Got a power block in for the engine bay. So basically our main power from the battery runs to the back side of that, and then that supplies us power to the engine bay as well as supplying power to the inside of the car. So it's just a bulkhead. See, we got all this heat tape and stuff on. This is DEI heat tape. It's peeling there because there's some fluid that got behind that, so I have to fix that. So disregard the peeling tape. We did get the motor. We did mock the motor up in the car when we got our turbo kit, and then we pulled it back out to fully clean and dress the motor, as well as do the oil pump nut. So we'll do safety wire on that, and then do our oil drain in the pan. So got all this stuff cleaned up. It's pretty much ready to go back together. We just are waiting on the oil pump nut, and then we got to get our pan welded. All right, moving on to the inside of the car. We got, ignore all this. This is all a mess, but got our dash painted, fully painted. Got all of the other panels painted. This is all mocked up in here, so like you see gaps and stuff here. None of it's really screwed together, but we got our Fish Racing carbon fiber handbrake in. Really love this thing. All the handbrake lines are ran. Still got to tie some of these down back here and tidy all this up back here. Our fuse panel, it looks like a nest of wires because it is at the moment, but our fuse box is mounted up in there. You would essentially pop that off, and there's your fuses. None of that stuff's mounted. None of it's done. All the fuses are still blue. I'm going to swap all those out. That's from overspray from the previous paint job, but you get the idea. But the idea behind this is so that it's hidden, but it's also accessible. I'll probably make this to where it pops in and out a little easier. But yeah, it'll be out of the way and also still easy to get to. So you'll see we got our link can gauge mounted on our steering column cover. I basically cut down a pod gauge and formed it into the column mount. So I like it personally because it's directly in front of your face. Doesn't really block any of the gauges. I don't have a tacky gauge hanging here. I don't have a tacky gauge hanging here. I guess some people consider this tacky, so I don't know what, I should probably not use the word tacky, but you get the idea. It's in your face. It's easy to get to. I can easily touch the buttons if I need to and grid, and it's, like I said, right there in my face, which is what I want. And then we talked about our handbrake, which is all plumbed and bled. Disregard the wobble, it's not bolted in. Then we got this carbon fiber switch panel that I made up. We have our interior lighting, which goes around the whole inside of the car. Got these nice stainless black switches. This is fans, which the relay is wired. Obviously the fans aren't installed, so that's all wired up. And then this is a green button and a red button. These two are not wired to anything at the moment because I don't have anything to wire them to, but I just put them in here because I know I'll eventually add something that these could be used for. So really happy with how that turned out. I screwed up a couple pieces of carbon fiber before getting it right, but I think the handbrake tied in with this carbon panel looks really good. I don't think it looks too race car, and it looks clean and sleek because I'm trying to go for like a street car look with a race car vibe. So I don't know if that makes any sense. All this stuff will be, obviously there will be like the hazard button will be in here, the switch, window switch button will be in here. It'll have a shift boot, so that'll all tie up. I'm still undecided if I want to run the rest of the console with the cup holders or not. I'll probably decide that once I get seats and the rest of the interior finished up. It will have a glove box installed. The glove box is right there, and it will have the kicker here. All this stuff hanging is just plugs that from pulling the dash out, but this is the headlight switch. That's all wired up. Most of the cluster is wired up. There's just a few things left with it. Honestly, I'd say 90% of the wiring's done. The only wiring we really have left is for all of the link stuff. So the car is wired to the ignition and everything. The cluster and all that works. Fuel gauge works. As far as I know, the speedometer works. So moving back here, we got our battery box mounted. That's welded straight to the chassis. Well, the studs are welded straight to the chassis, so the box can still be unbolted. Not sure if that's a permanent thing because I just talked to the guys at XS Power at PRI, so we might be making the switch to an XS Power battery. And if that's the case, this mount will be way overkill, so we may ditch that altogether. But for now, that is a battery box for an Optima battery. So if we don't go with the XS Power, it will have an Optima battery in there. That's just the battery I had laying around to test power to the car, so that's why that's in there. All the fuel stuff, ignore that. Ignore the green that's not painted. That'll all get painted. All this stuff back here needs to be completely painted. The last thing you saw in the last video was us seeing the fuel in the tank. We actually since then have dropped the tank out of the car, threw that tank in the trash because it's full of crap. Put the tank from the other car in here along with all of the fuel stuff, and got the fuel sending unit working. So it was the old one that was trash. In the meantime of pulling the fuel tank, I decided it was probably a good idea to do all the chassis reinforcements, which I can't really show you now, but I will show you that we did put like 12 rock lights on the car, and that will help me show you what we did underneath. So we will turn those on. So there's like one rock light here, one right there on the suspension, one right there under the car, one back here on the frame rail. And so you can kind of see up inside here,
We undercoated everything. We completely seam sealed underneath where the subframe bolts up. We got subframe reinforcements in. We went ahead and paint marked all of our bolts. So all of the suspension stuff is pretty much done back here. The axles need bolted in and stuff still, but this is all done back here. Brand new brakes, calipers, and pads. Like I said, all this nicely painted. Got the arches for the overs cut out. Obviously, got to clean all that up, weld it up. Tried to clean all this Bondo from the flares off, so still have some work left on that. We still have to undercoat this portion of the underbody, but not stressing that out too much. And you'll see we got the rock lights up here too. And this is, for anyone wondering, this is mostly just for, and it sounds dumb, but the ease of working on the car at the track. So at nighttime or something, you just click them on and you have all the light you could ever need. And it'll also look cool at night because I did wire in a strobe module. We're gonna turn the lights off for this part. So as you can see, all the lights, I got this little button here. So you can strobe them in different configurations, different patterns. So pretty cool. I decided to add this as like I don't know, I think it'd probably look cool on track at nighttime. Obviously the car will be much lower to the ground, so you won't get as much light dissipation, but nonetheless, pretty cool. Man, this thing just looks like a freaking spaceship in here. So I was really undecided with what I was going to do with the back half of the car. I was really just going to leave it stripped as much as possible, but I decided if I'm building a car, I really want to do stuff I've always wanted to do. So this is one of those things. So I reupholstered the back deck lid cover in diamond stitch. This part you'll see is raised. That's because there's nothing there. So I still got to flip this over and add some structure in there. We cut the third brake light out of it. So that's why that's like that. And then I got more of this, and I'm doing the intersections of the door panels. So this will be diamond stitched, which we have one of those done right here that I was testing on this black panel. Not sure how I feel about it. I think it looks cool. Maybe need to modify some things on it, but for now we'll put it together. If I hate it, we'll change it. But the plan is to do the rear seat delete and this stuff as well, so that'll all tie in. Another big thing that took some time that you wouldn't think is getting all of the crap off of the seal on the windshield. So we had to clean all this rubber off, which there's still some left on this side, but I wanted to get it cleaned pretty good. One big successful thing that we did was the previous owner had broke off the lollipop bolt clean in the threads. I was able to successfully get the old piece out with a left-handed drill bit. So we got that out. That was one thing that I was putting off that I probably would have waited till the last minute usually, but that is fixed. And that pretty much wraps up everything that we've done. There's obviously more stuff that isn't worth talking about. Kind of sucks because it seems like this thing is making no progress, which in a way it isn't. There's just a lot of little stuff that you don't really think about. I had to pull the steering column back out and completely sand and paint it because it had blue overspray all over it. It's just a lot of little stuff that takes a day at a time, where you're just doing little things and it adds up. So to me it seems like I'm not making that much progress, but I don't know. I guess it's the little things, the little 10% that takes the longest. Realistically, the car is putting the motor in and plugging the ECU in away from running, but there still seems like so much more to go. Another thing that kind of put a wrench in our plans was I bought everything to go
bottom mount turbo, which there's the manifold and everything. I mocked it up, started looking at it. I'm like, dude, I don't really want to go bottom mount. I'd rather go top mount, which I know that's like a controversial thing, but the top mount kit I'm going with is a really well used and abused kit. And for me, the cons of being top mount don't outweigh the cons of being bottom mount. And that's just my personal opinion. I have no experience with turbo BMWs at all, so maybe I'll regret that decision. But I know a lot of guys that put a lot of laps on top mount kits and have no problem. So I changed everything to go top mount. I think it'll be better for my situation and what I'm wanting. And yeah, that's the gist of it. So that slowed things down a little bit because now I'm waiting on all the top mount stuff. Right now, the big thing is trying to finish up the interior bits. I know that sounds kind of dumb because the interior should really be the last of my worries, but I want to get the interior done so that I can mask off everything and get the car sanded down and primered, so I can get these jams a different color because I can't do the blue. I would normally just wrap over this blue, but I really don't want tire marks to go down to a blue color. Regardless, they probably will, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's the big thing, is trying to finish everything up in here. I also know myself, and I know once this thing runs, I'm going to be so fired up and excited that it runs that I'm not going to do anything else, like in terms of small stuff. I'm going to slap this thing together and go drive it. So if I get all the little dumb stuff that I'm not going to want to do later done now, when I do put the car together, it'll be a well sorted and done car, and I can just go rip and have fun in it. So that's kind of my thought process, is like just do the dumb little stuff now that I don't want to do later, so that way when the fun stuff comes, like putting the motor in it, starting it, tuning it, we can just get straight to it and I don't have to mess with all the dumb little things. So, but that's gonna be it for this video. Super excited to put out another video on this thing. Hopefully we make some good, decent progress in the meantime, and we get it all on video and we can put a good video together. So yeah, sorry if that was too much talking, but I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.